Hey everybody, this is Doing Lines. This is the sports betting podcast where we bet on all the sports of the sports and not really some of the sports, and then we bet on some of that as well. But mostly football. I'm your host, Kyle Ayers, joined as always by my co-host, Austin Huff. Austin.
Kyle, oh wow. You're really getting me in my feels today. I guess this is it, huh?
This is it.
Man, they say as we go on, we remember all the times we had together.
Yeah.
Which is definitely true for all of us except for maybe Drake. I'm starting to think that he may have lost that rap feud.
There's a decent. Yeah. I mean, it's yes. When my mom knows how it ended, you probably lost.
My parents were definitely probably, I haven't talked to them about it yet, but I'm sure they probably err on the side of like, I don't get it. This is a dumb thing. However, about 6 months ago, when we were in the height of the rap feud, I explained it all in detail to them, and they were riveted. So there is a possibility that there's a possibility that they are probably all in on this. And given how much my mom loves Bravo TV shows, reality TV shows, she's probably all in on this beef, especially
this
when
is an artistic
break down
Real
the layers
Housewives sort of thing going on. The only thing that could
It
really
really
make
is.
this worse for Drake is if we did make Canada the 51st state.
That would be great.
And
Oh my gosh.
They call the Toronto Raptors like the new California Raptors or something like that.
Yeah, if we did make Canada the 51st state, do we just keep it as Canada, or does it add like 5 more states with like the different provinces?
I think if we made it into a state, it certainly would even further weaken the world championship of the World Series. If you remove the only other team not from this particular area.
Yeah, because we can call it the World Series. Because it is multiple. It is multiple, like Super Bowl. Well, I guess we can't.
No, but it's
why Super Bowl they play in different countries. So I guess
why they make every baseball free agent pretend they're going to talk to Toronto for 6 minutes. That way they can say that it's still the World Series.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is the end of the year. If it's your first time listening to Doing Lines, odd first ep.
Yeah. Hey, better late than never, I guess.
If this is your first time watching Breaking Bad, this is Ozymandias, and you're in the desert with Walter White. Who I feel accidentally dressed like for some reason.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I didn't know we were doing cosplay on the podcast today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see what we're talking about.
We're doing cosplay, and Walter White is the Chiefs, and I'm going as second to last and last episode, where it was a really good run at the expense of a lot of things, and here we are.
Okay, so we've got for those that are just joining us, or for those that have been joining us all season, I am a Titans fan, so I haven't had fun this year at all. Kyle is a Chiefs fan. Kyle, how are you feeling after a couple of days to let it marinate after?
Being from Kansas City, you generally have to let these things marinate at least for a day before you smoke them overnight. And I will say, it's just somehow your first time here. We're a sports betting podcast, but we bet on the fake sports and some of the not sports of sports. We make bets you can't make anywhere else. I cannot fathom this being your first episode because we're not doing that. We're just recapping the season.
Yeah, but, literally just going over our highlights.
I will say this: the junk time touchdowns will make the blowout less severe as history looks back, and
it helps Patrick Mahomes like Super Bowl statistics because when really all is said and done.
I believe comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that we are doing to Patrick Mahomes what we did to LeBron James, which is just, what about? And not like, isn't this crazy? Isn't this crazy?
I do think it's a little crazy. There were a lot of hot take
There's people saying, I saw, is he top 10 quarterback? I saw, should they fire Andy Reid? I just saw all of this insane stuff. I'm like, yeah, who are you going to hire if you fire Andy Reid? Who are you going to hire?
Also, it's their third loss of the season, the second of which that they were trying to win. So it's not even like, not even just like.
Ultimately, there are 2 teams left. The Chiefs, we'll call Mahomes era just to get rid of the Super Bowl 4 and Super Bowl 1 from like the discourse of the Chiefs Super Bowls.
Right.
ultimately they've probably had the worst roster in every Super Bowl they've been in with Mahomes. If you go a position is a
Yeah,
win, by a position is a win, not any weight to any position.
yeah,
Ultimately, the Eagles had better players at, eh, if you're making a team, you were like, well, people even like, what about the Chiefs tight end? He's 50. I would give them Mahomes and I would give Chris Jones and I would give Trent McDuffie. And then even then, the Eagles have very good corners. And then you start to be like, oh, the
mhm,
Eagles might be better at the rest, except
yeah,
center, maybe not center, where the Chiefs have a
right.
great center. But you're like, well, ultimately, they have overachieved very frequently because quarterback is such a important position and they have
Mhm.
the one. And this is just crazy. And I wasn't, while it was happening, I'm like, this stinks. But I was also like, they're in this. Fuck. It is the weight that losing the Super Bowl seems to be worse for you than if you lost to the Texans in the divisional round and people could forget about it.
Oh, they've actually I heard I forget who it was. I think it was Tom Brady of all people talking about this where and it makes so much sense. If you lose the Super Bowl, that means way worse than not even making it to the
The
Super Bowl
playoffs,
and
not
like
even making it to the
losing in the
playoffs.
playoffs. So right, he goes nobody forgets when I lost to Manning twice in the AFC
He had a
Championship,
five
but
interception playoff game.
everyone remembers the two Giants losses and the
Yeah.
Eagles loss. Like
It's
everyone like it is
absolutely
so
wild.
true. It is true.
Tom Brady had a losing record in the playoffs to Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Over his and that was a narrative shift of the I saw a lot of articles from 2010 and 2011 that said Tom Brady will never be Joe Montana. I saw a
Hmm.
lot of articles from 2012 that said Brady's cooked. We did
Yeah.
this already and everyone
Right.
forgets because and ultimately I don't there's no way to ever think Mahomes
The
in particular will have the longevity of the second most longevity driven athlete of all time, I think, after LeBron. And but it's so who knows?
the
Yeah.
only difference in that narrative that nobody forget like everyone remembers the Super Bowl losses rather than the playoff losses is with Patrick Mahomes because losing to the Bengals in the AFC Championship that was
Yeah.
the only time Patrick Mahomes has that was
Overtime of the AFC Championship is the soonest his season's ended. And
yeah
if you
that
just
that
go off
that
of
is
games
like
being four quarters, that's kind of the Super Bowl. You're in the
yeah
first
right
quarter of the next game.
exactly yeah
So
exactly
he's in the fifth
that
quarter of a game.
yeah. But no, and the hot takiness, and this is one of the things I hate. I worked in sports talk radio for over a decade, and one of my biggest pet peeves about that industry is the being first with the hot take. And there were a lot of folks, both on the TV side and the radio side, coming out on Monday morning of saying you can put to rest the Brady versus Mahomes argument. It is done.
I
It is
wish
dead.
so
Stick a fork
desperately
in
they
it.
would listen to themselves and
Well,
then
yeah,
fucking do it. Then talk about something else.
but that is so I like idiotic to say when a guy is only what 6 years into
29,
his career.
29 years old.
And yeah, exactly. Like has at least another
Also,
decade
if you just
to
say through
play.
29 years old, they have the same Super Bowl record.
That's the thing. It's like that's what it's like. I don't understand like how you can be like, okay, well, you're basically just writing off the fact that the Chiefs don't make another Super Bowl. And if you want to go with like, oh well, Brady was even in his losses, he wasn't ever blown out in a Super Bowl. So you're gonna compare the two careers based off of how they
Yeah,
played
he was often blown out in the divisional round.
in the biggest games.
He
Yeah,
was
it's like I don't
blown
know.
out
I
in the
just think
conference
it's
championship round.
I
I
hate that we're like, and
yeah.
it's an epidemic in all of sports, like breakdown, where it's not just these two guys. It's literally saying that we have to encompass: is he the greatest of all
Yeah.
time? Is he is he on the debate?
It's the
Where does he
LeBron and
rank all time? And it's
NBA-ification
like
of it all.
it's not over yet. That's like
No.
saying like that's like watching, you're watching a great movie, and midway through, you're like, where does this movie rank all time? I don't know. Let's let the plot play out
Yeah.
before we start getting there.
Yeah.
Let's not give our review, Siskel and
Right.
Ebert, until the end credits roll.
Yeah.
And even then, sometimes they come back for an end credit scene, like Brady kind of did with Tampa Bay.
Right.
Like,
Let's see if they get if they can I can't think of a movie example. Let's see if he finds Nemo before we decide if this is the greatest
yeah,
movie of all
right.
time.
They're like, well, I don't know. I don't know. Is Nemo's dad a top 10 fish all
We're gonna say
time?
this
I
is the
don't think
greatest
so.
movie of all time, and we don't even know if Encino Man lives. Yeah, I agree. I
I
really
love that he
think
pulled out Encino Man.
ultimately I think it's the NBA-ification of all dialogue of all things because the LeBron Jordan conversation
Hmm.
that bled to the Brady Montana conversation ruined it all.
Well,
If you really think
and
about anything, and I don't want to get into any defense or the stats or this stats, Brady was only pressured once in a Super Bowl at a higher rate that Mahomes was pressured the least in a Super Bowl. Mahomes' best protection ever in a Super Bowl would be Brady's second worst. This is a big thing. These are
yeah.
different teams.
Well,
Brady's
And
best team
Brady's never had less than a top 10
had a top
defense
10
in the
defense.
NFL.
Mahomes won a
Yeah.
Super Bowl with a bottom 10 defense.
Hmm.
It's been a completely different thing. Brady's best team lost. Brady's second best team might have fucking lost. It's
They and you
wild.
know what it is? The similarities. I'm glad you brought up the NBA because the similarities between the NBA and the NFL in the sense of going from one great to the next with like almost like no downtime. We went
Yeah.
straight from the Jordan era to the LeBron era. We went
Yeah.
straight from the Brady era right to the Mahomes
It
era.
was really
And
odd because if you think about the NBA era, they I think, underrated Kobe in an effort to not speedily move on to the next person.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
then it was impossible to deny what LeBron was doing.
right, exactly. And I think it's so funny because now you've got a lot of people coming to the defense of Brady, the same people that hated Brady when he was
Hated
coming
him.
through it. The way people hate Mahomes right now is the way we hated Brady. And people forget that and they
Yeah.
want to say, "Oh, well Brady was better. Like the way Brady did things was better than the way Mahomes is doing them now." It's very much people hated Jordan while he was in the league. If you were
Oh,
not
they
a
were
Bulls
Magic,
fan,
Magic, Magic, and Bird,
yeah,
Magic and Bird, and like also
if
Jordan
you
didn't win. I don't know. It is truly everyone. I mean, ask someone what their favorite season of SNL was,
it was
and
when they were a
it
kid.
was
It was
when
when
they
they
were
were the most
16 years
impressionable.
old.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
everyone will tell you, and they'll look back, and there'll be people who with like a completely, they're like, it's never been better than that year,
Uh-huh.
and you'll be like, Steven Seagal hosted three times that year.
Yeah. It's the same people complain about Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, it was much better when we had the Who and Aerosmith
I
do
want to be the guy
halftime.
who is like watching, you know how like boomers and people watch Kendrick Lamar and be like, "What is he? This isn't this." I want to watch like Bruce Springsteen be like, "Why is he swinging his hand at that box with a stick attached?" Like talking about a guitar, and just be like, "Why does he have to
Yeah.
air hump the camera?" No one seemed to think that was awful when Bruce Springsteen boss cocked us all on national
Yeah,
television.
there was a point. I think it was the Who Super Bowl in eras
The
or
Hooper
no,
Bowl, yeah.
yep.
The Who are so
And
old it probably had to be in Arizona or
the
Florida because I imagine they live there.
The Who was it the Who or was it Bruce Springsteen when they slid into the camera
It's
and their
Bruce, the boss
crotch?
cock.
That was
Yeah.
Bruce?
Hmm.
Okay. All right. I remember that vividly and I remember thinking I guarantee you there's not going to be any angry suburban moms on Facebook tomorrow
Yeah.
clamoring that this Super Bowl is a
Um,
little too
I do want to
uh,
get through the end of the year scores before we get too
no,
far.
let's do
Because
it.
if it's
Let's
your,
do it.
I don't know if you're someone listening, we have bets every week. We have a guest come
Mhm.
on. They get $1,000. We do the bets. We're
We had a
living.
lot of fun. This
Andrew Perloff
was
was
a
on
great
here.
year.
Great season.
Hmm.
Ultimately, I will continue my qualms against the discussion of sports in general after this. Um, in the Super Bowl, Austin, Andrew ended up with $1,250,
Ooh.
which is sort of making up for his week six performance of zero.
Yeah,
So if
1,000
I add,
plus 1,250.
let me add his 2 weeks together. And then I ended up with plus 1,000. I had a pretty good week. And Austin, you ended up with plus $1,750 for your best week of
Oh,
the year.
don't let me get hot. 1,750, you said?
Yeah, your second best week of the year, week 18, you had 2,200. But this was your best. This was your second best week of the year. The year in total. Our winner for the entire year is Mike Keith, voice of the Not the Titans, and
Yeah. Yeah. Voice of, well, we can just say Voice of Tennessee, and it's right all year.
yeah, yeah.
It was right when we had him on, and it's right
No, you're
now.
gonna have
So
the
Voice of
manager of a
Tennessee.
singer-songwriter coming down your throat for something they're trying to trademark for a kid playing for nine people in Nashville. If you call him
Yeah.
the voice of Tennessee, but Mike Keith, the voice of the Tennessee Titans, turned voice of the Tennessee Volunteers, $1,800. That's a great single week. Second place is going to be Jay Light, comedian. host of Wrong the Game Show, Dallas Cowboys fan. Good to have any sort of W for a Cowboys
I
fan.
mean, look, just happy to see it, honestly. Then finishing second.
Yeah. And then we're going third place is going to be Chris Ranji with $1,400. Josh
And a
Brubaker
Bears
rounds it out.
fan.
Yeah.
So, got to have some Bears and Cowboys representation and Titans
It's
representation
funny, we
all
started
at the
so
top.
fast with Paul Pabst and Joey Molinaro started like 1,300, 1,200, and just into just off. Jessica Smetana did really well. And then at the bottom here in I'll call it bottom bronze. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Is going to be Steve Gorman with negative $1,500.
Oof.
And then
Oof.
bottom no, sorry, Julie Stewart Binks, negative 1,600 is bottom bronze.
Mm.
Bottom
Speaking
silver
of
is going to be
speaking
Barstool
of
Eddie.
America's 51st state Canadians. Uh,
Uh, Barstool Eddie at negative 2,200, and in last place, your friend and mine, Pat Tomasula, with negative $2,998.75. This
Chicago
guy,
did not come up strong
no,
this
this
year,
guy, this guy
unfortunately.
entered the clubhouse at negative $3,000 in week 3, and Jaden Daniels
And
had
he,
one win as a starter when this guy became the worst person of the year in this, or the
yeah,
least
yeah.
successful. I want to talk about a couple of our Super Bowl bets.
Wait, what was the final? What was our
Oh, yes,
do you
our
have our
final
cumulative
score.
final? Yeah.
Austin Huff, silver medal this year with $9,562. That's about $500 a week, you know?
Yeah, that's not bad. But then let's
I
hear what
finished
you
with
got.
$14,390.
I, you kicked my
There
ass
was a
this
week
year.
in here. There
And
was there was
correct
two
me if
two crux weeks, I'll call them, Austin, where you lost 1,000 and I gained 1,200, and then another week where you lost 600 and I gained 2,300, and then we
cor-
were pretty much even the rest of the time.
correct me if I'm wrong, but last year
Big massive
I
comeback at the end of the year in the Super
at
Bowl.
the very end. Okay, so I did win last year.
You won
Okay.
last year in the Super Bowl. I think I was ahead by like
Yeah,
$1,500, and you hit a crazy, crazy bet in the Super Bowl and ended up winning, which
I
didn't
think you're
bother
right.
me that much because I also got to watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you were victorious on Super Bowl Sunday, even though you came out as a loser on Super Bowl Sunday.
some of our Super Bowl bets, this one, and some of these, we'll go through all these. These are pretty fun. We had to bet on more Taylor Swift shots or fantasy football group text complaining about the refs. Austin, one Taylor Swift shot
I was surprised by that, honestly,
and
because I thought it would have been at
zero
least two.
ref complaints.
No, even after. So I would have thought because the refs started out hot on that fourth down call, the offensive pass interference.
Nothing.
I thought for sure that would have sparked
Nothing,
an
despite it being a
internal
penalty.
dialogue.
I mean, because people were very ready, and I think it was ultimately like the replay. He was slapping him in the face, like he like had his hand in
Yeah,
his face.
but yeah,
But I
no,
think
that
everyone was
was.
figuring out who had what squares in the square game, which I won.
Oh, did you? Oh, nice.
That's right. I came out net up $5 for winning quarter. I won quarter
Congratulations.
one,
I won
which
quarter
is
three in my family's. So
the Chiefs and I both won one quarter in this game. Turns out they added them together. It's not like tennis.
yeah,
Uh, all right. The next one was more touchdowns for former Titans or surprise cameos during halftime.
that
Austin, we
one.
almost
Oh my
backdoored this one.
gosh.
We almost
Oh my
backdoored this one
gosh.
with DeAndre Hopkins, but Samuel Jackson, Serena Williams, and DJ Mustard were all unlisted cameos. And two touchdowns. AJ Brown and DeAndre Hopkins both had touchdowns.
Yeah, and I felt the weight of both of those. It was like, okay, AJ Brown scored early. It's like, okay, ouch, okay. And then I'm thinking, well, the game's over. No one else is going to score.
Yeah.
And then the Chiefs go on this run, this mini run at the end of the game. And of course, DeAndre Hopkins scores. DeAndre
Yeah.
Hopkins, who had been pretty quiet throughout the entire playoffs.
Playoffs. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He really,
And
really. I earnestly do think he's hurt. I think something's wrong, and I think they're just keep. For him to he dropped his only other target, and it was a huge, massive
that
game
was a that
cruxing
was a weird that was
third
a weird
down,
DeAndre Hopkins
right
moment.
to him,
Yeah.
massive third down. Could have. It
And
was
he
like
has
it was only like 17 points at that point. You know what I mean? And that
even at
shifted it.
even at his age, he has some of the best hands in the
It
sport.
that was
Like,
just
so it's
honestly when that
weird.
happened, I was like, oh, okay, today's not the day.
Mm.
This is a shocking bet here. Barkley, more runs over 15 and a half or under 0 yards.
Yeah, good job on the Chiefs defense. Like that was
Zero
like
rushes over 15 yards. His longest was 10
and
and
they had a lot
five
negative.
negatives.
I was gonna say, I remember watching, I was like, damn,
Five negatives and a couple zeros, but I didn't even count the zeros.
The Chiefs defense, shout out to Spagnola because he did
You
You
know
know,
what
you
is
could
wild is you will
say
look
what you
back on
want.
this game and be like, they gave up all these points, and I'll be like, the Chiefs defense kind of played fucking good,
They
especially when
they
it mattered.
they made sure Saquon Barkley didn't beat them, and
It
that's how you have to beat
it was
the.
like the third quarter, and the defense had really only given up 10 points and a short field
Mhm.
touchdown.
And honestly, it was the turnovers, the Chiefs' turnovers. Patrick Mahomes giving up a pick six
Yeah.
and the short field right before half.
And
That was like kind of like
Mahomes' pick six was him,
brutal.
and I don't think the second turnover was once again having an out of position guard get shoved into you. As with
Yeah.
the fumble was having a backup guard because you're out of position. I'll forever blame the Chiefs for not playing DJ Humphries the second he was healthy at tackle the whole playoff run. I think it was when the Texans game happened and they stuck with Thuney after that. I was like, oh, this is not sustainable. Thank God the Bills don't have a great pass rush, especially on
If
the
if
outside.
if you need a good, really bad offensive line support group, I've got a number you could call. You could join me at the next meeting. We've been meeting all week, all
Uh,
season long, and it
yeah.
has helped. It has
Uh,
helped. It's
I mean, this has
therapeutic.
happened to the Chiefs before, and then they just went out and did it. So we'll see.
Well,
Uh,
and that's the positive thing about, like, if you want to take any silver lining from this, is Brett Veach. You know he's going to go to work
well,
this
there's something to
offseason.
like you are in the Super Bowl and you lose. You're in the Super Bowl, and you have legitimately potentially the worst roster of any of the teams you played in the playoffs.
But it was also their best record too, right? Like they were good at
It was
one
just, I mean, it
score
was a
wins and
crazy season with these games. It was crazy, but they are really, well, they are really, really good at if we have to figure this drive out, figure it out.
Mhm.
But if it's, other than that, you can only scheme quick passes. So it was just embarrassing. I mean, the Tooney was getting embarrassed. Caliendo was getting embarrassed. Tooney's a Hall of Famer at the position he plays. If we had DeAndre Hopkins play quarterback, do I think we would have won the Super Bowl? Probably fucking not. It didn't. Ultimately, my only complaint against Andy Reid, and it's so overwhelmingly in the direction of loving him because I think he saved the team. Because the year before they hired Andy Reid, what were their problems?
oh
A
yeah,
guy
yeah.
killed himself.
Yeah, there's trust me.
We had a lot
Andy
different
Reid
problems
is
before Andy
definitely
Reid.
yeah.
We had guys dying, and the team won 2 wins. And Romeo Cornell was your coach. And Andy Reid is almost to a fault loyal. And I
How
think that how
how did that
keeping
shit go
Bob
in the
Sutton
foot?
along too long as the defensive coordinator when they were losing in those playoff games with Brady, against Brady, I think he was just too loyal. I think he's too loyal to Matt Nagy. I think he was too loyal to Bieniemy. I think he's never really brought in a guy. Kafka, who's now
Well,
the offensive coordinator in the Giants, was the closest they ever had to like he was the Chiefs quarterback coach. That could have been the takeover guy. I think he's too loyal to Tooney because he
cor
played okay for one move outside. I just think he's too loyal.
correct me if I'm wrong though, but the offense hasn't been dominant since Bieniemy was there, right? Like Bieniemy, like they
They've
had
got basically
something
gone
going
from
there.
like they were okay with Bieniemy. They've basically gone worse. If you go to like Mahomes Super Bowl years and like ping
Yeah,
them, they were like even the last year they were the ninth offense, which is okay. And this year they were like 24th.
yeah,
And you're just
right.
like, what are we doing here? I think
Yeah,
Nagy
it
is the
is.
biggest one, but I think Bob Sutton,
Yeah,
Nagy, I think he's too loyal to his move of moving Tooney outside
that's
because he
it.
likes cohesion.
Sounds like Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel hired, I
Yeah.
believe, 12 of the coaches he had in Tennessee up in New England. And I think New England's in for a rude awakening when they realize that it's not that great of a staff.
I
People,
don't I am and we could do an off-season show and talk about all this stuff. I don't think Vrabel's gonna ever work out as a head coach.
I don't think so
The
either. I
only
don't
time I
either.
think he will is if he strikes lightning in a bottle with an OC, and then that OC
Yes.
will leave.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's what they did in Tennessee. That's what happened in Tennessee. Was there the year they went to the AFC Championship
Yeah,
was that, and I think the next year was when they had Arthur Smith as their OC. And
yeah,
Arthur Smith is a fantastic offensive
yeah.
coordinator.
And I don't know
Uh
if he's a good coach, but he's a fantastic offensive coordinator.
yeah,
Like
and
it's
I think he's a Peter principle guy. And if you think about it too, I mean, go back to, like, people look to that AFC Championship run that they had, and they look at the him getting one over on Bill Belichick
mhm.
at his own game on national TV against the Patriots in that wild card round, and they're like, "Wow, Vrabel is a genius. He's the next guy." And the media loves to latch on to something, and when they latch on, they don't let go. And
Oh yeah,
they
I've seen
never
that.
mind. They don't look at the details. They don't look at the fact that Vrabel went 6-18 over his final 24 games as a head coach. They don't look at the fact that he literally dropped a 4-game lead in the division with only 7 games to play, which is
Not
a
only will they
historical
not look at his
collapse.
record, what they will do is pluck out a time that he played the Chiefs close.
Yes,
And they'll be
yes,
like, well, but he had that backup quarterback and played the Chiefs pretty close.
yeah.
And
Sunday
you're
Night
like, yeah, but that
Football.
was a
I
part of
remember
a
that.
eight games in a row they lost.
It was. That was the start. That was the start of the
Like,
slide.
like, look at how good he played against the Chiefs one year. And you're like,
And
yeah, the
then
Raiders just fucked up doing this too.
And then if you want to go back even further, when he was a defensive coordinator with the Texans the year before he was hired by the Titans, he had the worst defense in Texans history, which I
Yeah.
know only spans 20 years, but still, like it was the worst defense that they had seen, and that was under his leadership. So like the fact that we like paint him with this brush of genius is is beyond me, and I don't understand
I
it.
don't,
Like
I mean, it
I
is
feel like I'm
still,
taking crazy pills of like being like, is no one gonna
they're
actually
also
look
like
at the
latched
job
on
that
to the,
he's done in the
yeah,
league?
he's like used to be a Belichick guy. And you're like, well, what if none of the other ones worked out?
Right. And Belichick didn't even work out there at the end. Like it just
I
like
think that
I don't know.
I mean, that is the Belichick's like he did make the playoffs with Mac Jones, and then you're sort of like,
It's true.
these
And
his
Matt
teams were
Matt Castle that one year
horrible,
too. Yeah.
horrible team. It is. I really think at this point, maybe you can get by with a defensive guy if you get an OC that sticks around. You kind of need to find the spags of OCs, like an old guy who already failed at being a head coach, and
Hmm.
that has ultimately helped the Chiefs a great deal. I don't know. I'm like the most chill about it of any Chiefs fan. You know what's good stuff? I get a lot done because I avoid all media. I
Oh,
you know, if the week
I
leading up
there.
to the Super Bowl, I'm like, oh, I should probably watch every. You know who I always loved? I always loved watching Colin Coward. I should put him on, which is something I've
Yeah,
never said my whole life. But you watch everything because there's only two teams to talk about, and
dude.
yours is one of them.
The number of times I have gone to bed early after my team loses an important game,
Yeah,
it is like it's the best for for my health and for
yeah.
my mental health is when my team loses, honestly.
You're
Is because
ultimately, yeah,
I check out and I
yeah.
don't want to consume any media. But
It's
then
great,
when they win, you're right. You give me it all.
and you
You're like
want to enjoy it.
just yeah.
But when they lose, you're like, maybe I won't see SVP's bad beats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right.
It's so
I
it
like
is. I'm
I
very relaxed about it all. It was a bummer while it happened. Honestly, in the fashion
when
it happened is like easier to digest than if you helmet catched your way out of a perfect season, which I think would be harder to get past.
when the Dodgers won the World Series, I stayed up late enough until they started re-airing the the post-game broadcast
Great,
of
but you have
of the
to.
celebration.
You
And I
have to.
watched and then I again watched that halfway through. And I had a morning show to wake up for the next morning. I got 2 hours of sleep that
You
night.
just won't be
And
back. You don't know if you'll be back in that situation.
I you have to consume it all. You
Do all the dumb
really,
stuff.
really
Watch
do.
the ads
Now,
for your team won the World Series. You
let
get
me
the
let
official
me
hat.
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. As a Chiefs fan, and you do have a plethora of riches, especially at the most important position and the two most important positions, head coach and quarterback.
Yep.
How confident do you feel going into 2025? Obviously, we have a whole offseason to play out, but as it stands right now, how confident do you
So
feel
we'll
for
see what
getting
happens
back
with
there?
left tackle is so important. They've missed on that in the draft as often as they've hit on defensive back and safety. The Chiefs have hit on defensive back in the seventh round 80 times. It's actually fucking insane. Like to the point where you're like, well, that guy's the best player on the 49ers, or this guy's playing, you know what I mean? Since Brandon Flowers and Brandon
Yeah,
Carr and they're just the Chiefs miss on left tackle. Eric Fisher was their last good tackle drafted. And he was the
yeah,
first overall pick. And people called him a bust, but everyone else in that draft stunk so bad, he ended up being good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like they were like, what a bust. You're like, he's the best pick in the first round. It was like
Did
Luke Jokel was the other person they could have picked. He's out of the league in 3 years.
yeah, right.
I am Rasheed Rice will be back after remember how he's going to get in trouble. Um,
Oh yeah.
so
Is he
Worthy,
going to get in trouble?
yeah, I think 16th
Was
probably. That would
did
be
they
my
draft Trey Smith?
yes, but he's not a tackle.
He's a guard,
Trey
yeah.
Smith might be gone, getting a ton of money. He was more inconsistent. He will be a highly coveted free agent that I think people will be like on the Chiefs when he eventually leaves. Will be like he's great and an awesome guy and a
Mhm.
cool and so he makes like highlights as a guard. Like
those
he will
that you're in
pancake
the
guys.
Chiefs interior lineup, guard, center guard has been
Sure, except one
they're
played
really good.
tackle.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's hard, but Trey Smith is very inconsistent. This year was not his best year. Creed Humphrey will stay. Creed Humphrey's on a Hall of Fame trajectory for a center, which just means, oh, now that Jason Kelsey retired, we give this guy the award because he's the one we've heard of. Um, I am Worthy really came into it. Like this dude
Yeah.
looks incredible. He just had to become wide receiver one because Patrick Mahomes threw an interception and then hurt his best player all in the same play. And
Hmm.
with no Rice, and then Juju came and got hurt. Worthy just had to do it, and he
Yeah.
eventually did. And I think, but him and Rice, and if they re-sign Hollywood for a year, that's pretty good. We'll see what happens at tight end. Um, I don't care what Travis does either way. I hope he just smiles. It's been a little while since he seemed happy, despite having a couple reasons to be happy. And I don't know. I'm confident enough. I think once again they're looking like the West should be fine. I think that, like a 4-2 division record and an 11 or
Yeah.
12 win season where you maybe get a home playoff game, and then I don't think
Well,
they're going to win
yeah.
the AFC.
And
I
even
think the
like,
Bengals will be infinitely better and then beat the shit out of each other in that division.
mhm.
And the Bills have no one else in their division. That division really is just a one. It's crazy every time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's exactly. I mean, like I feel like you and I both come from divisions that are they tend to be always down. So if you can just win, like honestly, you don't have to worry about the other teams in your division because they will screw up. It's a bunch of boneheads. And I say that coming from a team that is a lot of times a
Yeah,
bonehead.
I I
So
I think I mean
that's why like the Texans win easily when they win the division. Like whoever wins the AFC South wins it with ease usually,
mhm.
for the most part, unless you blow a 4 game lead with 7 games to play, like Vrabel did, and you let the
Ultimately,
Jaguars come back.
ultimately, if I just
Um,
had to like pick it right now, I bet they probably lose the AFC Championship game at Baltimore, and I think Baltimore probably beats the Lions.
ooh, wow. Okay, we should clip this. We should make sure
I think
this is
I
the
think
February 12th,
I think
on the
not
day of
winning
recording
MVP
this.
is the best thing that could happen to Lamar.
Yeah,
And because if you're a three-time MVP who's never made a Super Bowl, good luck having anything else talked about.
yeah, it's true.
I
It's
think
true.
the Chiefs
And
might benefit from not being the thing talked about all year. God, I can't fucking wait.
honestly, probably the best thing for the Chiefs to, not to lose that, obviously, because it would have been great being the only three-peat, but to for like going into an off season, you will get a lot more of those. Hey, I'm gonna pick the shiny new toy, in the off season. It's
Yeah.
like no matter how this off season shakes out for the Chiefs, people are gonna be like, I'm looking for what's next, and them losing in the Super Bowl opens that door for that conversation. And I don't know about you, but as a fan, I love when nobody talks about my team and then my team ends up being good
Yeah.
and they turn heads and they're like, oh
I
crap,
mean,
forgot
I
about them.
cannot think of a more psycho thing to have said than all of the people who are like, is Patrick Mahomes washed?
I mean, is he? It look, we
I
gotta
please
break it down.
say
In
it.
fact, we'll take your calls
I'm
right
like
now.
blown away by anyone who watched the game. I don't, he made a couple bad throws, but ultimately I think all of his play was because of duress. And Brady, to Brady's credit, and it's very, I think he did a pretty good job calling the game. And I think
He,
he did.
he did all right.
I don't.
The
He had
bar
a
is
lot of
very
moments.
low for
It is
Brady.
very low, but there's a lot of moments where I'm just like, I really wish it didn't have to be about you this often. It's like we forced this into this conversation, but there were times where he's just like, there's nothing he can do under this pressure. It ruins your game plan. You know what I mean? He's just like, he does it. I don't think he cares about the comp. I don't think
I
it.
the Chiefs'
Yeah,
game plan reminded me a lot of their loss in the AFC Championship to the Bengals, and it was just abandoning the run. And I feel like
they need a
w-
running back. I
they
love him. I love
I
him, but he's
feel
not
like they
it.
just they there was the one drive when they were down, I think 17-0, and Pacheco gets 2 carries for like 4 yards,
Mhm.
and then they stopped running the ball after that. And
Because the
it's like
Hopkins drop was right after that, and then they like never ran it again.
you have to run the football. Like you and like
Well, you
you got to
can't when
keep it
your
balanced.
interior offensive lineman is playing tackle and your backup
Well,
can't block. Like it really
yeah.
all it
But
all
like
came down to that
literally
for me. It all came
the
down to that for me.
two runs that they did run were literally just like ISO runs, like right
Yeah.
up the middle. And it was like there was
I
no
would love end
the
arounds
Chiefs
to
are a very
Worthy.
creative team. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like they're a creative team. They could have gotten Pacheco on the perimeter, like figured something out, but they just I don't know. I think they did what a lot of teams do when they play the Chiefs. They kind of went in panic mode and was like,
Yeah.
okay, we gotta
I think
we
they had
gotta
so
throw
little
the
going
football.
so fast that they didn't, it was like they didn't know what to do. They had so little go, nothing worked. But ultimately, Pacheco did not look good since he came back from injury. Kareem Hunt
Mm.
might have been tired from having to be old and lead the league in carries since he joined the Chiefs. And I say old, he's an old running back because he's only 3 years younger than Derrick Henry. And
Yeah, yeah. And
I don't know, man.
Samaj P. Ryan didn't get hugged by Patrick Mahomes on the sidelines.
Yeah, I'm sure that this matters,
Hey,
and I'm sure they all care, and no
hey,
one's thinking about anything else. Insane.
drama brewing in the Chiefs locker room. People
This
are
is like
asking. People are
9/11.
asking.
9/11 could happen at Kansas City, and people would be like, "Did you see Travis Kelsey bump into Andy Reid as the second
Hey,
plane hit?"
what's going on? We need to unpack that. In fact, we're
Yeah.
going to take your calls right here when we come back. Samaj
Is
P. Ryan, Patrick Mahomes.
Was the chemistry between Samaje Perine and Patrick Mahomes, was the breakdown of that what ended the Chiefs season? Because remember, Perine did have a touch this playoffs.
Right. See, look, folks,
That-
don't forget. And he had one of the biggest touches
Oh, it was
in the
important.
playoffs.
It was great.
Uh,
A
people
first down that
forget.
you and I could have got, especially
P.
you.
P. Ryan forget. Hey, easy. I got a
No, I'm said
jersey over
especially you
here.
because I probably would have dropped
Oh,
it.
oh, okay.
Um, Yeah, it's ultimately the I would love to be the team that doesn't have to be the hot takey relevant team, and the Chiefs are that just because of the last 2 years and the culture of surrounding it all. And I would love to not be. I just love to not be that. I just next
Hey,
year we're gonna have a hard schedule again, but when they start
yep.
the year, I bet they either start the year like 1-3 or 4-0, and that way it all turns to shit again. The dialogue around it all, the discussions online, the laziness with which everyone discusses things in what I would assume is not positive intent, but you're discussing this with like malicious, not in like I hate, but like I mean like a malicious agenda. Like people do lots of things.
Yeah.
Ultimately, just it makes it all so exhausting, and there's really no sports media to consume and enjoy. There's no show where Mina Kimes is everyone, where it's
No,
like, well,
no,
this
no,
happened
there's not.
because of this, and I think this is this, and big picture, it's because of this. It's lots of shows where someone's like, did you know that Patrick Mahomes' best team would be worse than Tom Brady? Like statistically, look how bad his line was. And then people be like, he should have threw the ball off his head. Like, and I'm like, well, and there's always one old guy named like Rick the Ripper who has to come in here and scream, and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, I want to go back to one thing you said. You mentioned something about dialogue around your team. What is that? What do what is that? People
That's
talk
true.
about
Yeah,
your
yeah,
favorite
yeah.
NFL
Yeah,
team? Is
what I
that
traded in for people being like are only talking about my team the week before the trade deadline.
Yeah, literally the talk that the Titans get is just like it's usually like right before commercial break. Oh yeah, and the Titans.
Yeah, or the week of the trade deadline, they'll be like, I think the Titans are going to trade their skinniest guy again.
Yeah, yeah. Let's hear. Eliminated from contention, the Tennessee Titans this week.
Yeah,
That's what it
but
is.
ultimately, you stay offline. It's so crazy. The takes are insane. You see people. It's the same thing with the dialogue around the college football playoff is the same as everything else. I hate that there's no playoff. I hate that there's only two teams. I hate that there's only four teams. I hate that there's eight teams. I hate that there's 12 teams. There should be eight. I hate that there's 12 teams. There should be two. And it'll be the same guy saying all that in
Yeah,
a 6 year period.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right, 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 right. If you just go back and search people's feeds, you'll see a lot of
I think,
discourse.
yeah, people Nat will look back, even if the Chiefs never like don't make the playoffs for 6 years, or they don't win a Super Bowl for 10 years. God forbid that happens to a quarterback who people think about this like, and everyone forgets that it happened, and they consider it all to be one career, even though it was basically two. Um, People look back and be like, it's crazy they made five Super Bowls in 7 years.
Yeah, no, it what they've done already is just absurd and probably honestly leads to a lot of the conversation you get.
Yeah. I mean, would I like them to be in less ads? Yeah.
You know what's funny is the Titans like Derrick Henry finally got in a national ad with State Farm and then was almost immediately traded after. So it was he wasn't even actually traded. He just signed in the offseason.
He's uninsured.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was honestly, it was whatever. It's not even really leading the sour. It's Bailey was taking it harder than I was because
Wait,
she's a
and
Chiefs fan for a few years, so she's like, "How does this end like this?" And I'm like, honestly, from all my life, this is the best it ever went.
yeah, honestly, that's yeah, yeah. Oh man, just wait. Don't tell her that it can get oh so much worse.
Yeah, it's like if you imagine becoming a Patriots fan in 2019.
Like yeah, imagine if Taylor Swift started dating someone on the Titans. Like Swifties would be like, do they really do this every Sunday until January?
It's cute how she lets him go to work.
Yeah, like oh, like that's not this is boring. Like Swifties would not be into the NFL like they are. I guess
Yeah.
it did kind of help that she dated someone on the Chiefs.
It
Um,
all lined up pretty
which
crazily.
going back to the whole reason that we do this podcast is our made up, wildly made up
Mhm.
bets. One of which was Bailey knowing three people in a row,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she
I
she
just said three times, who is that? And we got a Steve Spagnuolo, Samuel Jackson, and Serena Williams poll.
that's pretty good. That's
Mhm.
pretty
Wide
good.
spectrum of knowledge.
Right. So which S- Samuel Jackson probably the easiest of those three.
Yeah.
Serena probably I would say the next easiest, but it's not. It's still like Serena and Venus, they're sisters and look very much like similar. So
Yeah.
you could have had that confusion. And then Steve Spagnuolo, I just credit that to that's got to be just because she's dating you, right?
Might
Like
not even
she
know
like
his name is Steve, if I'm being honest.
okay.
Uh, but I
So does she
bags.
just said Spags?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, got that one. And this was the big bet: was Taylor Swift getting a ring? No, she did not. She might not have even taken a phone call.
Do you think she would have? I think she would have. I think I the more I look into it,
No.
I think she would have. I
I
do.
would, if someone dressed like that and proposed to me, I would leave.
Dress
Hey,
like
the
oh
way that Travis
if
came
that
dressed up to the game.
Travis did come.
If he was like, "Hey, it's me from the Nice Guys, I'm proposing to you,"
Yeah,
or
he
like,
did look
"Hey,
like a 70s adult film
yeah,
director.
hey, the guy from Miami Vice just asked if I want to spend the rest of my life with him." He's the guy who's dressed like a DLC from Grand Theft Auto 5. Just asked.
Also,
Also, he
no,
looked cool as
but
shit. If I'm being
when
honest, he like pulled it
proposing though,
off.
when proposing though, forget what the guy's wearing. Nobody cares what the guy's wearing.
Yeah,
It's what she's wearing. And she was wearing like I think jean shorts and like that tank top with a I think she had a white blazer over top.
I gotta be honest. I don't remember a single detail from the game.
I see I remember this is the only thing I remember. You can't it's kind of like, right before you propose, you have to make sure that your girl is she has her nails done for the photos, when she shows off the ring. But and then which I'm sure Taylor always has them done
She's
because
probably
she's just
fine.
yeah, she's fine there. But what she was wearing, probably not engagement, like getting proposed to, like, so it's probably
Yeah,
for the
who
best,
knows?
honestly.
Yeah,
It's
you're
probably for
right.
the best.
Yeah, it was honestly all rigged. If it took this for everyone to just stop talking about that, I'm fine. Like, I'm so
I see.
tired of it
I
all.
can't. I can't get enough of it when it comes to the theories around the like engagement itself because it probably
Oh,
is
that I
coming.
don't care. I
It,
mean
it
the
may it
NFL
may come
being
this.
rigged and the
Oh
refs
oh
and all
oh.
this stuff. I'm just like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired.
Well, it's kind of like when people say that the 2020 presidential election was rigged. It's like, okay, if it is rigged, why did they not rig the biggest one? It's like if the
Yeah.
2020 presidential election was rigged, why didn't they rig it again in
Well, they
2024?
actually let the Eagles win to prove that they were letting the Chiefs win. They
I think you have been in too many comment sections. I think
uh
you end up scrolling a little too deep.
I was so good and avoidant afterwards. It was incredible. I haven't been on Reddit, but I feel all right. And now we're in the off season, and it was a
Wait,
good
we're in the
season of
off
the doing
season.
of the
And look,
lines.
now the Chiefs are just as good as the Titans right now.
That's true. That's true. First game of the year. Don't hold anything back.
Finally, we're back. We're
Now we get to all
back.
go talk about how fast some boys are.
Oh, I can't wait. We should do a combine doing lines.
Sure. Does anyone Chris Jones
Doing
or Xavier Worthy it?
we'll call it doing binds.
We really should go to the combine. The problem
You want
is
to? It's a
no
short drive for me.
no one wants to go to Indianapolis.
Yeah, but everyone goes. Like
It's
all the
so
NFL
and
media
then it's
goes.
just
We
there's
would be
so
able to
little
get
going on there.
guests.
We could probably run in the combine. That's how unimportant
If
it
we
is.
just set up a table at St. Elmo's in Indianapolis,
Right.
like
You could get everybody.
we would get everybody.
But
We
that's how
I
little there is going on in Indianapolis. They're like, "What are you guys going to go to the place?"
Yeah, that's all it is. It really is. It's like, hey, where are we meeting tonight? Same place we meet
Yeah.
every year,
Good on St. Elmo's for not letting any other businesses get any business.
right?
You gotta get a yeah. Your start. We got March Madness. Mizzou's looking all right. Pitchers and catchers report soon.
Yeah,
We're looking
they some teams already have. Yeah.
because of time
So
zones.
yeah,
Good year though. I mean, good betting year. A lot of good
it is
lines.
good and great guest
Great
year.
guests.
That's I think the most fun thing about this podcast is the fun guests that we've had and listen, there comes a day in every man's life where he has to choose to go on, or take a little break. Listen, this isn't goodbye. It's see you later. Later. It's see you later until the beginning of season 4. Um, and we'll be back. We're gonna run this back. We're gonna, football is king in this country, and we're gonna continually grow this podcast. If you helped us grow it this year, thank you. If you listened even to one episode this year, thank you. And if you helped us book a guest this year, thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Kyle, I appreciate you. Okay, I don't even know if Kyle can hear me right now. I think he was jamming out to my M&Z. No, it has been, I love doing this podcast.
Oh, I'd already triggered it, but there's silence at the beginning and there was no turning back. And then you got sincere for that brief second. And I was like, oh my God, I've already hit Wannabe by the Spice Girls and it's going to start. It has been fun. Maybe we'll get some stuff going and make this a little bit of a thing with the thing. I got some ideas.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And the new wrinkle that we added to this year's podcast
yeah,
this
it
season.
was getting older.
Well, yes, that. But then the other wrinkle was the adding the challenge, the public challenge.
We got a lot of people
worked.
challenged that need to get in here.
That worked like very well.
Yeah.
People actually took it seriously and challenged people, and people were like, "I'm going to answer that challenge," and that added a fun new wrinkle to it, where we got people to respond to challenges. I think we got like 6 deep into a challenge, like everyone who just kept challenging, and everyone kept answering, which was awesome. So we're gonna run it back next year.
Shout out everyone
Bigger,
listening.
better.
Bigger,
We want to thank you guys.
Better, putting the bet in better.
Folks. See,
Bigger,
this is a comedy podcast.
Yeah. Good, better bets. Never let it rest till your good is your better and your better is the best.
That's what they say. That is the Doing Lions motto. That's probably how Kyle will open every episode next season. At Korked Bats, if you want to follow the podcast or any of the fun,
I'm just trying to
ridiculous
throw
stuff
enough
that we do.
copyright music in here that we get flagged and no one hears this.
I think we already do get flagged on YouTube because I think the royalty-free music that we play for our intro is I apparently someone claimed it. So I don't think I think we already do get flagged for every episode. Yeah,
We'll
it's
find
all right.
new music next year. I'll write a theme song.
Hey, it's Kyle and it's his.
I got some pretty
Doing
good theme
Lions.
songs for Never Seen It. We'll get something.
Okay. All right. So yeah, at Korked Bats, it's Korked spelled with a K. Follow there, and you'll keep tabs on everything that we got going on. Follow Kyle. Kyle's a extremely hilarious comedian, and he's got other great things with his other podcast. Right there, proof and point that he is so great at what he does. He's got Never Seen It show. So follow Kyle at Kyle Ayers
Check
on
them out
all the socials
on the internet.
or at Kyle Ayers things on TikTok. And then
Yeah.
you can follow me at Austin Huff. I'm just a radio show host in Chicago. So not that big of a deal. But Kyle, for the last time, Chris Kirkpatrick on our short list of guys that we need to get on
He
the
is. That's
podcast.
why I pulled this up here.
Yeah. Kyle, you got anything for the road?
Everybody, get off the internet.
Wow. Wait, no,
You know,
don't get on.
consume.
Don't
No.
don't get
Avoid
fully
the
off
hot
the
takes.
internet because
Let's
that's literally
bring
how
back
this.
the discussion of what something actually is, but avoid the hot takes. That's my goal in sports. If I keep doing any sports media, is to have rational conversations.
Wow.
So no one will watch, but
Yeah. I was gonna say that's the that
it's
show will
either
get
that
canceled
or
within a-
be Stephen A. Smith saying you would never marry Serena Williams.
Why not? You know, instead
Really,
of being
Stephen? That's what's keeping you from marrying Serena Williams is your desire?
Yeah. Yeah, without question. Let's first of all, it's future President Stephen A. Smith you're talking about. But you
I'm
know
gonna
what?
start calling him Stephen Smith. That's how
No.
inconsequential he is.
Here you go, Kyle. To back up your point, in a world of Stephen A. Smiths, be a Stephen Smith. Yeah, we're definitely getting flagged for this podcast.
All right, we'll see you guys
Love you. Good luck on your bets.
next year.